Hey everyone. Are we live? I can't hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so it appears that I've been talking without microphones so far. So let me try that
No
again.
worries. Yep.
Let me try that again very quickly. So welcome everyone. This is a new episode of the Security Bread podcast. This is a little project of mine where I invite cool people from the industry to talk about some of the latest security news. I'm very happy to introduce you today. Now, d3ndr1t today with me. So here we go again. Hi, d3ndr1t. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Very good. I'm so happy to have you. I always tell that the best part of this project is that I get to talk with a lot of cool people and to possibly make some good friends out of it. So that's it. Really, I'm just happy to have you. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself for the public?
Yeah, so I go by the user handle d3ndr1t online. I'm a tech content creator, Instagram and YouTube, but mainly Instagram. I share a lot of hacking tools, hacking techniques, that kind of thing, and it's pretty much just me documenting my own tech journey, and I just hope that I help a few people along the way. So that's really it.
Oh, I know you do. I know you do for sure. Oh, by the way, your contacts are going to be in the description. So for all the people interested, just go check that out. In the same video description, you also gonna get the 3 articles links we're gonna talk about today. So go in there, do your own research and read, and let us know if there's anything we're gonna miss today. And just a reminder before we jump into it, this is live on YouTube right now. You're watching us, but this is gonna be available and recorded afterwards on the channel, and also re-uploaded on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you prefer to use. With that said, I think we're good to go, and I'm gonna share my screen. If I know how to do it, I should have learned it at this point. And here it is. So this is the thing. We're gonna, we collected a bunch of news from the last weekish, and we're gonna have a chat about it. But first, let me introduce it. So the first one you see on the screen, it's a very cool piece from Wired and Andy Greenberg that is talking about some security research that was done from a specific group, which found out a vulnerability on a Kia, the car vendor web portal, which allegedly got the researchers access to a lot of different cars around the world, like actual cars owned by and bought by people out there, and with that kind of access, they could um, remotely control some of the features of the car, not really drive it, but unlock it, close it, enable the embedded camera, which is pretty scary, and most importantly, they could be able to actually track where the vehicle was, which is pretty interesting as well as getting a lot of information from the buyer and so on and so forth. Now, this is a big deal, of course, and I like the article because they mention in the introduction that it's not the first time someone found a vulnerability in some car to hijack it, but this is probably the first time something can be done remotely from a web access portal, and as per the security researchers say, in a pretty easy way. Um, that let us know that maybe companies are not doing the best they can in order to prevent this. Now, I usually talk too much, so I will stop myself there. And I will like to hear just your first thoughts when reading this kind of article. What did you think about this?
I it kind of reminded me like when I was first reading the web app hackers handbook.
Right.
In the intro, it pretty much says technology is evolving faster than our ability to secure it, and mostly just because companies don't really care. And I think this is just another example of that. But this is yet another reason I'm super paranoid about EVs. I don't want an EV. I don't want to own one. I'm happy burning dinosaurs to get around. Um, yeah, this scares me, and it makes me worry. In all honesty,
Absolutely. I mean, me too, of course. And it's a little scary that basically all new cars have so many embedded, devices, computers, technologies, just to get us some fancy, feature via a smartphone or something that I'm not sure we really need. But apparently that's where this industry is going. That's where what their customer wants. Most of the people out there want. Maybe not the security people, but still, this is gonna be possibly the norm. Like, this is gonna happen for every car in just few years, possibly. And it is true what you're saying there, that many companies maybe just do not care, so they do not put the effort that is needed in order to secure it. At the same time, that's something that once again, it's specified on the article somewhere. It's very long, so you watching this, take your time to read through it all. But something that's very curious is that one of the researchers specified that working in this industry, so in the car industry, they noticed that they put a lot of more effort into the embedded technology to secure it in the car, and not on the web, portal access, which I don't know. It's a little difficult for me to understand, because the embedded stuff, it's the new stuff, right? When the web things are the ones that we know from plenty of years now, and the industry should know how to secure it and to make it secure from the very beginning. Did you think it?
Yeah, it kind of feels like that they were prioritizing the wrong thing. Given that the web portal was something that was exposed to the internet, my only thinking is that they don't care. Because if you've got a web portal that you can just submit commands to, like I'm pretty sure it says in the article, you were just able to submit commands to it and track vehicles' locations to make them do stuff. Like, why would these companies not do that? You know, my only thought is that they don't care. Surely they have smart people working for them who should be looking at this. So
I'm a little more scared that, and I think this is actually worse, that not only they don't care, they do not understand, and that scares me more. Right? The fact that it should be clear, right? That something that can be remotely hijacked, it's much more scary and riskier than just physically accessing the car.
yeah,
It scares me, and at the same time, I think, isn't this something that it's a little misleading, because we are used to cars being stolen physically, right? We are not really used to someone remotely hijacking and open it. So they are just trying maybe to respond to the once again to the majority of people out there who are just afraid of someone going in there and opening the car and steal the car, which I think, I don't know, I'm not scared about that they will steal my car. I'm afraid of someone opening it right while I'm in there,
yeah.
and even though I close it, or they can get my my position wherever I am with my car. I'm more scared about this, but I'm not sure if it's my thing because I'm a security practitioner or not.
I mean, we've already seen those. I don't know if you saw those reels going around on Instagram by people using those flipper zeros to open up Tesla charging ports. Like prime example right there. And I didn't know it was as serious as this. I thought it was initially, okay, so some juvenile kids who bought a flipper zero, they're just having some fun, but no, it's actually it's actually a lot more serious. So
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I feel like that kind of news, someone using the Flipper Zero or similar device to go in there and open a car and maybe do something about it. I feel like that hits the news a lot more than something like this, because that's something people can. I mean, they understand it quicker, probably,
yeah,
just because it's more physical, right? And this is something that, I mean, this piece from Wired, for me, it's pretty good. This is a very good information piece, but I don't see this mentioned anywhere else. While the thing you mentioned, right, the Flipper Zero thing, they actually talked about it on a banning it on a country level because they were scared of
yeah,
we mentioned this in a previous episode, actually, right? I think it was Canada banning this technology because they were afraid of car stealing. While I think it really influenced the thing so much, and yeah,
yeah,
that there's just an awareness problem for me.
yeah. I remember seeing similar stuff in the UK. Like they were checking for it. I think it was UK airports, um, and I'm pretty sure at the time I was like about to take a trip to the States, and I was worried because I usually carry my Raspberry Pi with me as well. Like, oh, am I going to get busted? you know, are they going to pull me aside and frisk me? But yeah, you're right. There is a general kind of awareness issue there, and I think another part of it is that majority of people just don't understand this stuff. Like,
And I mean, that's the thing. That is an issue, right? That's a thing. A lot of people still do not understand these things, but I also think at the same time they should not understand it like by itself, like by design. I think it's an effort that the security practitioners should do in order to make them understand. There's no other way, right?
Yeah.
If there are no sufficient skilled people trying to make them understand in a simple way, and I'm talking about the industry in general, the car industry, that this is something very, very important, possibly even more important than the physical, access to the car, because if this is not clear for everyone, if I can remotely access a car and do something about it, there's little you can do as an owner to prevent it. While if I need to at least go in there and get in the vicinity of the car, you can, of course, I don't know, take a photo of me. I'm not suggesting to do something bad physically, right? But at least there's another difficulty in where someone needs to know where you are, needs to know what car is it that it is vulnerable, and needs to get very, very close, which is a risk by itself. While this, they really demonstrated that they could access any car, I don't know if all around the world or just all around the country, in a very simple way. And they tried it with, car dealers, cars that were parked in there, or just, someone friend's car or their own. And actually, let me do this. You should all be able to see my screen where I'm showing a video where they are attempting live, to exploit the vulnerability. They didn't do this before. This is some wired employee owning a Kia car, and they just got in there, found out the car plate and trying to get access into it live. And just take a couple of minutes and they can open it, right? Or they can find out about information regarding the car and who owns it. And it's really crazy. It's too simple to be true. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I remember reading in the article too, because I was looking at this yesterday. You could use the license plate to track the physical location, which is going to be, if you're paranoid about stalking, this is not going to help you sleep at night. But yeah, that is.
I feel like I'm always gonna have an old car just to prevent these kind of things. But at some point, there will not, be enough old cars all around the world that I can use. So I'm afraid at some point I will need to go and use some of these because that's the only option available. That's pretty scary.
I'm gonna fight it for as many years as I can, even if I have to get like a 20-year-old Land Cruiser and put it back together. I don't want an EV. Like I'm very heavily against them.
Absolutely. I feel the same. As long as I can, I will try to avoid this. But it's part of it. We know, if you're in the industry, you know that if you're building technology, of course you can be better at preventing this kind of stuff, but there will always be some kind of flaw that someone is gonna find, and it's good, and it's actually good that someone can find it, so you'll actually know. But the more technology is embedded in this, this is a car right now, but it could be any other device out there. It's kind of similar to IoT stuff for me. You just have, I don't know, your fridge in your house, and it actually also do something like, I don't know, connecting to the retailer and buying goods and stuff. I'm scared about it. I don't think we really need it. But at the same point, I see, if I go to a store, I see all the fridges have a screen with something. So it's gonna be a sad future, if you ask me.
Sad, or personally, I'm just scared because I think back to 2001, a space odyssey, like HAL 9000. That's what I'm worried about. I don't know. I'm probably too paranoid, but
well, that's the thing. People from the industry are paranoid, and that's maybe not very good. But at the same time, people outside the industry are completely opposite. They don't know, they're not aware, and I feel like I repeat this every episode. I would like this project and other content creators to try to fill the gap, right? And spreading some awareness, so at least if we are aware that there could be such problems. We are aware that maybe we need to update our devices, maybe even our own car, and that maybe when something like this happens in the news, we can do something to make something a little safer. You know, we actually can do something about it from time to time. But we need to be aware of it. Otherwise, that update that you want to apply, it's gonna be there. You'll never apply it because you don't know, and you're still vulnerable, and that's very bad.
Yeah.
Now, I think we're good to move to the next
Mhm.
news. This was very
Yeah.
interesting. Once again, go in there in the description and get the link to go and read it, because there's a lot to learn from it. But we're now moving to another piece of news, this time from Blippi Computer. And so this is much easier compared to the previous ones. But I feel like there's something very, a detail that is very interesting. So basically, we had they identified an attacker that was actually charged by the US SEC for hacking, basically. So for hacking crimes and remotely accessing into company systems and accounts. And this is something that we probably hear every day on the security industry, right? This is not something new. The newish part is that the reason, or at least apparently the goal of the attacker in this case, was to get information, like financial information, from the companies they were accessing, so that they could use those financial information, like, I don't know, the last quarter finances that they are not still talking about publicly, or something like that. They knew about their revenue, or about some new deals they were trying to close up. And knowing those information in advance, they basically use it to then buy some stocks, sell it when it was the good time, and doing what is called insider trading. That is basically that, right? If you get to know some information that are not known to the public, and you exploit that information to make money out of it on the stock market, that's something that I think pretty much around the world is considered a crime, and that's why they were charged, right? The um, hacking part was just a part of it. They were actually charged with the insider trading, and I don't see that very, very often, or at least not in the news. Not that we are very aware of it. We usually see other type of monetization from attackers. Yeah, once again, what do you think about this when you read it?
This kind of this annoyed me a little bit because I think there are a lot of dodgy things that happen in the financial industry like every day. Why is this particular hacker being convicted? Like, how many, 2008 financial crisis, how many executives, how many bankers were doing dodgy things and didn't face 1 day of jail time? I personally think people are just trying to make an example of this guy, and you know, like I'm not saying what he did was right. Like I'm not advocating what he was doing in any way. But I definitely think there is a double standard here.
Okay, so you think they're pushing this a little too much on the insider trading thing, possibly, compared to what we usually have in that kind of industry, right?
Yeah, and I, I just don't know why they're they're publicizing it as much as they are. I'm sure dodgy stuff goes on every day.
Well, that's interesting for one reason for me. So first of all, it is true. Like, we're just reading a random article here. It could be that the news site really put the emphasis of the insider trading thing, just to
Mm.
make maybe a news out of it. But at the same time, I kind of agree with you, first of all, but I see this as another interesting information on why do attackers do what they do. right?
Mm.
Because I feel like, and I try to spread this kind of information pretty often, a lot of people in the industry get into the industry because of the technological challenge, right? Because
Mm.
I want to, I don't know, hack into websites, or I want to, track activity from computer signal or stuff. But at
Yeah.
the same time, not a lot of people are really aware of what we are dealing with, right? Why there are attacks out there doing what they're doing, and there are of course multiple different reasons. Okay, and a big part of that criminal business nowadays, monetization. So they're just trying to make money out of it, and this is just a very different way to make money that I didn't really consider before reading this. So I don't know how big it was this specific case, but it
Mm.
is true that if I get and steal company information, this is a possibility, right?
Mm.
uh, Especially because these people kind of make a lot of money, and I'm not suggesting anyone to do it, right? But they
No.
can get a lot of money out of it, and they need to um, kind of launder that money. So they can buy some stocks out there, they can buy some cryptos, they will, I don't know, buy a house out there, they will try to hide that money. So this, I feel this is a possibility, even though it's not really a big chunk of the criminal business out there. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're right.
it's definitely a different kind of vector to what I'm used to seeing from criminals, I would say. Like, usually when you think cyber criminal, you might think a botnet, you might think some sort of phishing campaign or ransomware or that kind of thing. But no, it's props to the guy for at least being original.
Well, yeah, let's say so.
Yeah.
I was more like, what I'm thinking right now, and that's my bias because I'm
Mm.
kind of the blue team side of it. I'm into detection and response, and what I'm thinking when I'm reading this is, okay, so I usually monitor my environment for something like, okay, sketchy software, which could be crypto mining malware, right? Because they are making money using my computational power to build or generate that cryptocurrency, and that's a thing. I usually monitor for potential ransomware. So basically, they go and encrypt my data so they can ask a ransom out of it, and that's another thing. But I never, or at least not so often, thought that, oh, you know what, I should monitor the financial data of my company very closely, or like my executive communication, because maybe the attackers could also be interested in that. Because if they can
Mm.
steal the data, they maybe, yeah, they did it before, to sell it or to publish it and still ask for a ransom. But now I am aware that they could potentially use it for speculation, insider trading, and the company can still have some damage out of this kind of activity, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my mental approach to this kind of news, um, which as an interesting part, my point of view. And
I'm not really
yeah,
sure if it says how. Like, was he an employee for one of these companies, or did he use leaked creds or something like that, or the
so what they mention here is that they well, he did it with multiple companies. So
mm,
it's not specified, but I don't think he was an employee for all of those companies.
mm,
What they are mentioning here, I'm trying to read while we speak, is that the British hacker allegedly breached the companies by resetting the passwords of senior executives in the targeted organizations. So I'm thinking about something like very, let's say, smooth and easy as I'm going to compromise a specific account that I
mm,
know is going to have important information. Like, I don't know, I could use some information gathering or OSINT technique to find out who is the uh, chief financial officer or CFO of a company, and then trying to find out their email address, and then just get in there and try to guess their password, or actually, do some social engineering to find out the password, and so on and so forth. And that's really it, right? They didn't really have, in this case, to do any complicated stuff inside the network and lateral movement and things, because if you get access to the right account, you just read their emails and you probably have all of the information you need, or at least a lot of good information.
Yeah, that if he was hacking the accounts of the head honchos at those places, it bound to have been a ton of sensitive info there. And you're right, it might have been something just as simple as scraping their LinkedIn accounts and maybe seeing if they've been involved in any breaches. Who knows? It doesn't really go into a ton of detail, but
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so this is another topic that I often like. I feel like this kind of information that we're speaking about doesn't really sound fancy to many people out there, especially to those mostly interested in the possible penetration testing and red teaming part of the industry, because of course this does not involve a lot of technical and technological acumen, or just techniques, right? This is the old old and always working either social engineering or very simple guessing password stuff. But that's the thing, right? I feel this is very important, because if that still works, and if that's still if that is still the most common way attackers breach our networks, it is kind of important. We need to understand how to prevent that, because we're not doing enough, apparently, right? Or at least, yeah, to find out that they did something like that.
Two-factor authentication probably could have prevented a lot of this.
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of cases of companies that could have just prevented a lot of big attacks just by these simple mechanisms like that. What was it? An 18-year-old kid who hacked Uber, who social
Yeah.
engineered one of the help desk people, or something like that. But again, like you said, I think it is just an awareness issue, and it also comes down to making something more secure makes it less easy to use in a lot of cases, because it's kind of
That's
a
true.
pain to set up two-factor authentication, and it's kind of a pain to ask for that code that you then have to punch in every time you want to log in. So I think it's an awareness issue, and sometimes 2FA can just be a pain.
That's very true, and I'll add just a bit to it. Let's remember that this attack specifically was targeting executive people of companies, right? Which means if applying security measures is in fact a pain, right, and is in fact disturbing the people that you are securing, think if you want to force your executives to do it, right? Think about, I don't know, your CEO that maybe travels a lot around the world, and you make them use a multi-factor authentication every time they are in a new city, in a new country, because their access is suspicious. It could be in fact a little annoying, and it could be difficult for very let's say busy people out there. And still, once again, I work in security, so I feel like that's needed, that's required, especially for those kind of users and accounts. But at the same time, I understand that in some companies, especially big corporates, it's very difficult to try and push that kind of change, especially if you were not doing it from the very beginning. So it's a lot of awareness, but also the the difficult of change inside big companies and a lot of processes. Because it is true, it's fairly simple nowadays to enable something like multi-factor authentication, for example. But at the same time, you want to be sure it works. You want to be sure that it's not causing any problems it shouldn't. So when you have like thousands of users out there, you want to be very careful when enabling that. Otherwise, it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah, implementation's an entirely different ballgame. You're right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And from the outside, maybe that's not very clear. Sometime, we always, and I'm one of those people that when read about, okay, company X was breached once again, you said, oh, come on, really, another time? But at the same time, I work inside the company. I know how difficult it can be, and especially if you are a big name out there and you're pretty targeted by those attackers. It is challenging. I mean, we can always do better for sure, but it is challenging. It requires a lot of efforts, sometimes a lot of budget and a lot of people, which you don't always have. So it is tricky.
Yeah.
Now I think we're probably good to go to the next and final news of today.
This one was my favorite. Like that was a fun
Right?
one to read. But by far the most convoluted way to get out of paying child support I've ever heard.
Absolutely. We're going to speak about it in just a second. I just want to remind everyone, if you're watching this and you like what you're seeing and what you're listening to, please consider, subscribing to the channel, maybe sharing this with a friend, or just letting us know in a comment what you think about the episode. Or if you, want me to disturb d3ndr1t once again for a new episode, in the future, who knows? That said, let's go with the very last news of today. Once again, very good piece of news from TechCrunch. You have the article in the description. Go and read all of it because it's something that happened actually, I think, a few weeks ago. But they did a very good research part. They collected a lot of information. You have a very long article from which there's a lot to learn. So what we're talking about, this is the news that gave us the title for this episode, which was a little, maybe a little too much, but still, I feel it was nice. What we're talking about is a research from Mandiant and the FBI, which found out about a specific attacker, which I believe we also know the name, but I'm not gonna try to pronounce that because it's just difficult for me. So this person was found out to do two things. First of all, it was found out to post on a known cyber criminal forum on the dark web and trying to sell the access to some they call it here away electronic death registration system. So basically what they use in there to keep track and submit any new dead person that doctors know about, just to know and track people's in their way. And there are a lot of similar systems all around US, but I'm sure probably all around the world. And they were selling, they got access into one of these systems, and they tried to post in there to see if anyone wanted to buy the kind of access, which was interesting by itself, right? You can just start to think about, oh, why should anyone want to buy such access? What do you want to do with this kind of system? And at the same time, it apparently, the same person who was trying to sell this access also submitted his own death, right? So it basically made it official that he was dead for a specific cause. He's talking here about COVID-19 and stuff like that. And later on with the FBI investigation, they found out the guy was trying to appear that change identity that he had already ready, and basically prevent him to uh, pay his ex-wife for their daughter. So very very unusual case, if you ask me. Once again, not something that you hear very often, but as you said, right, this is crazy. It makes you think, oh, those stuff you see in TV series, right, with the, what was it, Mr. Robot, at
Yeah.
all of the crazy stuff happening
Yeah.
around. It's not something you see every day, but it can happen.
Mm.
You can potentially change identity. You can potentially fake your own death, officially appear that to anyone in the world. I don't know, that's mind-blowing for me.
And I think some people might not really understand why that's such a big deal, but if you're like, there are a lot of people out there where the ability to just disappear would mean a lot to them. Like if you're someone who's on the run from the police, if you owe money like this guy did, that's, it's concerning. But reading through this, my heart honestly does go out to this guy. Like, I'm not saying what he did was right, but it said he was an Iraq war veteran. Um, he was deep into drugs at one point as well. I'm convinced he probably wasn't of sound mind at the time that he was doing all of this. Um, yeah, yeah. I honestly just feel bad for him.
Yeah, you can, once again, the article is very good. They mentioned at some point that um, they asked him why. So let me do a step back here. They found out about him because at some point he accessed the uh, death registration system with his own IP address from his home, right? And that was very easy for the FBI to find out about who he was. And that was just one of the accesses. All of the others he did was through a VPN, and trying to hide their tracks as much as possible. And they asked him, why did they not use VPN that time? And apparently he mentioned something like, oh, I stopped caring about it, just because who cares. They are using different words in there, but the point is, it is true. These people are criminal because they're doing crimes. This should not be done. We're not encouraging this, and actually I feel like our industry is working against these adversaries. But it is true that some of them have some sad backgrounds and a few problems in life, so there's maybe a reason why they started doing this kind of stuff, which doesn't justify it, but once again, it's something to be aware of. um, like any kind of crime, really, right? It could be that you start doing this kind of stuff because maybe you need to, maybe you have some other problems, maybe someone else drives you to do something like that, and at some point in your life you just know to do that and nothing else, which is pretty sad, if you ask me.
Yeah, and part of it, I think part of him just wanted to be caught, so maybe he could like get some attention on him, and maybe he could tell his story and let people know why he did what he did. Because it said he tried to access this registry 1400 times or something, and then he knowingly connected without a VPN from his own home IP. I think he kind of wanted to get caught in some weird twisted way.
But that is a thing, right? it's
Mm.
it's been a thing in the prey industry, when people started the first hacking groups before it was a real job doing that. And it's I feel it's like it's still part of the hacking mindset that the cooler technical things you you do, you want some kind of recognition from the community. So either you do it, in the good part of the good side of it or bad side of it. You still want some kind of recognition. Maybe you do that, if you are an ethical hacker, you do it um, publishing your research paper and going at a conference to speak about your research. On the other side, maybe you just post in those criminal forums to to get some some feedbacks out of what you did. At the same time, they're of course doing it for money, right? As you said, something like this, like possibly result officially and completely dead. It means that anyone that is after you for any reason maybe will stop doing that, and that could potentially be valued a lot of money for the person. I like that they mentioned, the guy said at some point that he could afford to not have a job for more than 5 years just
Mm.
doing this kind of stuff out there. And well, I also think money is a big part of it. The thing that you is a is a smart person, because if you are able to do this thing, I do believe you are smart. You have the technical acumen. The thing that you can exploit your skill set to make money in a society which relies on jobs, and you don't have to, make you feel powerful. And that's probably another good part of it, right? Oh, you all people need to work all of your life, and I can stop working, and I can do, let's say, what I like to do, to make even more money. I feel like that sense of power, it's a big part of it, possibly.
Yeah, the power and attention for a lot of people is definitely a motivator, especially like, in the early days, but before I was probably on the internet, like hacking groups, just defacing websites for the fun of it, and even malware back then, from what I've researched, was like different. And instead of trying to steal credentials or steal your banking login, malware would just be made as a joke. It might pop your CD drive. It might flash bright colors to the screen. It was about attention. So you know
It's I also read a bunch of books talking about it. I feel it's very fascinating how it all started. And it was probably just a game at the very beginning, right?
Mm,
Just trying to do something that was not uh, to make a system do something that was not designed to do, right?
yeah.
That was the big part of it. And it just evolved in something something much bigger, which is, I think, is good. This is making me have a job and make money and everything. And also this project right here is something that I do for fun, and it will not be here without those first people doing that kind of stuff. So I feel grateful, but at the same time, you see how it's splitted into complete opposite things. You have complete criminals, and an entire job industry that I don't know how much valued it is nowadays, which is pretty crazy if you compare it to just, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's and also in a lot of cases, like I don't know about your part of the world, um, but over here, like the cyber industry is pretty volatile. Like there are a lot of harsh ups and downs. Um, no wonder that some people turn to crime like this. And again, we've been saying this whole podcast, we're not advocating for anything, but you know, for a lot
It's
of
a fact.
criminals, like they're in some remote part of the world, they've got to make money. They probably don't know how to do much else. Like you do what you got to do. And and another thing that I found interesting in this case was that it was a little thing that got this guy busted. He forgot to blur out the seal for the state of Hawaii or something,
Right.
wherever he was doing it from. And this isn't the first time. It's always a little thing that gets these guys caught. I don't know if you've listened to the Darknet Diaries episode Oxy Monster.
Oh, I actually had Jack in one of the previous episodes. He's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
always suggest everyone to check that podcast out.
yeah. And Oxy Monster, he was a dark web drug dealer, and it was like it was an email address in the header or of some Bitcoin tip jar or some welcome email or something like that. So it's always a little thing that gets these guys caught.
And once again, either maybe they just do some missteps, they
Mm.
forget something while trying to hide their tax, or maybe like you said before, it could be still a way to just give little hint here and there, because there's that part of them that really wants some attention, right?
Yeah,
So you never know what part of it is. But still, yeah, it is mentioned, it is specified that you have on the screen an actual part of the certificate of the fake death, and they forgot to remove some part of it, which could be used to identify where it was done and who did it, and then they track down this to the person, really, right? So the thing was, I believe, you identified that the certificate that was published on the forum was done and was created by the system of DIY. Then you reach out maybe to the people running that system. You take the logs out of it. You understand who did the request for this death certificate. You end up identifying the doctor, and then you find out that the doctor's user was compromised and was accessed by the person home IP address, right? I Once again, I'm biased, but that's the part that I really like of it. Trying to understand how you can track down what really happened with just a bunch of information. Just few tiny pieces of it you can correlate together, and you can even find out exactly who did it and why did it, and how to fix it, right? Because that's the most important thing, so that no one else can do it.
yes. Staying anonymous, like in this day and age, is really really hard. Like if you're gonna try and do something like this, you have to have everything planned out, like your own separate laptop to do all this, maybe a bootable drive with Linux or Tails. You've got to have a VPN set up. Um, got to be doing this on different networks all the time. It's really hard to stay private, and especially considering it only took a few bits of info to get this guy caught. It's much more difficult now to stay anonymous.
Yeah, and let's say they got him, and who
Mm,
knows how many people out there are still doing it, right? He himself was, he actually, how do you say it in English? Um, he basically said most of the crimes he committed, so he admitted it, and he also said that he did the same with a bunch of other systems from other states. Just,
mm.
I don't know, either to be sure he had a second, like a plan B, or just to sell all of them at some point. So this can be done when you have someone posting on the internet.
Mm.
Either they already bought it, or they start to try doing it themselves. So now we know this is a thing, and I will probably, this is in the US, I will probably start to push for everyone maintaining a similar system to go and double check and assume compromised thing, and try to identify any weird activity, possibly running penetration tests, so to find vulnerabilities they can fix, because this is really a big thing. This is a very
Mm.
big deal. It is.
And especially a lot of these government systems, from what I've heard, like a lot of these government sites, um, like I talk to a lot of people who just go into the private sector because it pays better. A lot of governments can't afford to employ or they don't see the value in employing top tier talent because it all goes back to that thing of the broad population just don't understand a lot of this stuff. They don't understand why it's important to implement like two-factor authentication. They don't understand the underlying technologies.
It is. They well, first of all, they don't have the same budgets, which I mean
Yeah.
could be part of awareness, but at the same time, it's really hard to justify how much and where to spend the money where you have a limited amount of it, right? Of course, we know that security is important, but there are a lot of other things out there, and when you have to split all of the money, it's really hard to bet to get a chunk of it. So of course, the private sector just has more money and can afford more people, which
Yeah.
I'm also in the private sector, so I'm, let's say, grateful for it, but at the same, it's a pity that all of those services we are relying on, because those are our own countries, our own states, and so on and so forth. If those are not secure, eventually we are taking the consequences. So yeah, I really think long term we need to find a solutions to that. Either
What do you think that is long term? What do
huh,
you see as the solution?
I mean, I just don't think it's doable to just find the money. That's not like it really works. I would rather probably um, incentivize or just force a little bit the private sector to make better offers to the public sectors, or just do a certain percentage of their work either for free or for a very lower price
Yeah.
for those specific uh, systems or very critical infrastructures that really need it, right? Because we cannot do we cannot just avoid securing them. And this is on a lot of different levels. Now we probably don't have time to go in deep in that, but that's probably the first thing in my mind. Do you have a
Yeah.
different opinion?
Um,
It's a tricky topic.
yeah, it's not something I've thought about too deeply. I mean, I guess that's kind of what's brought birth to bug bounty. Um,
Yeah.
but then there are some like ethical issues with that. I know there's this whole moral debate going around of, is this really an ethical thing to do when you essentially have a free workforce? And I know
Mhm.
there have been reports of like triages stealing bugs. Um, I don't know what the be all end all solution is. I think bug bounty and programs like that are a step in the right direction, but there's definitely a long way to go, and I'm not entirely sure what the solution is.
I mean, like any very good question, it does not have a single answer and the correct answer. It's going to be possibly a system and a series of different things. And I do think bug bounties could be a very big and important part of it.
Mm.
Once again, this is a topic we mentioned multiple times on multiple of the previous episodes. But yeah, that's a way where you can still get security improvements using the workforce of possibly the entire world,
Mm.
just making this because it's their passion. But at the same time, you need to process all of those information you get from bounty program. You need to have people working on it. You need to have developers patching those vulnerabilities. So still it's a piece of it. It's probably a very good piece of it, but still needs a lot of efforts and time and money to make it work, right? So yeah, it's just not very easy. Uh, Now it's been great, a very great conversation. We really touched a lot of topics, even some that I didn't really think about when reading the news, and that's the thing I like the most about the project. You don't know what you're going to talk about, and you're going to learn a lot from other people. And thank you so much for joining me with this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like, I really enjoyed riffing on these kinds of things. Yeah, anytime.
Great, great. Thank you so much, and thank you to all the people watching us once again. Let us know if you like the episode, and stay tuned for the next episode. I think it's gonna be next week, and maybe hopefully, Dendrite will be with us once again in the future. If he likes it. So
Yeah,
thank
might
you
be
again.
back. Who knows? Thanks, everyone.
Great, cool. Bye everyone, and see you next time.
Thanks, guys. See ya.